What's up, guys? It's Derek from Off-Grid Secrets. I'm here again with another video, and today I'm trying to explain to my followers why I'm no longer living off-grid in Spain. And it's for a lot of reasons. I don't know, some of you might know because I put out a couple videos and then I deleted them, but now this is the official video explaining exactly why, because I think this is important for anyone else that wants to start an off-grid community to think about these things that happened to me and try to put in place provisions that prevent this from happening to yourself, or maybe even change your plans according to this. Now, I don't know if you guys know or not, but about 3 years ago I bought about 2 hectares of land in Spain with the idea of creating an off-grid community, because I thought the rest of the world was too corrupt to try to fix, and the only way to establish a better system was to build it from the ground up and to make these off-grid communities more functionable, more self-sufficient than normal cities, and that way other people could take our example, follow our example, and replicate these off-grid communities in other places. Maybe I was being naive, but it's still a good idea. My problem was, though, was a lot of problems. Okay, so for example, we had about 8 volunteers in total. What we did was we used Workaway and some other websites, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, to try to find volunteers to help us build this community and live with us, obviously for free. We weren't asking for money or anything. But the people that showed up were not that great. And I'll get to that more towards the end here, and I'll explain exactly why they weren't that great and how we could probably try to fix it. But first, I'll start with the stuff that doesn't involve the other people, because I'm going to explain basically my situation. My situation was with our 2 hectares in Spain. It was very, very isolated, and then we did have kids and a teen, and it was difficult for friends and school and things like that. So that put a lot of pressure on the kids and also the relationship I was in at the time. One of the other things was that the temperature in Spain can get very, 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 very hot. So we're talking like 44 degrees Celsius, like 115 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. Very common, and that's very, very hot. It's like if you're living out there in the desert, you're gonna feel it, and if you have kids, it can be dangerous because you can get heat stroke and worse. And not only that, but it was super, super dry, and it was hard to manage water. So the way that we managed water was by getting 1,000-liter water tanks and driving them down to the town where there was a tap we could fill up with all the water we wanted. But we had to do this once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on how much we use this water. But we actually needed another car to do this. So that became a bit of a problem, because if we didn't have access to a car, the car broke down, we couldn't get water. So we were always kind of riding close to the edge of survival there. We could catch the rain, but it didn't rain that much in the summer. It only rains in the winter. And by the time the winter comes around, you're not worried about water, but it's the summer really. And that's when it doesn't rain. So you have to go and pick up the water. It's a big problem. You can create water catchments and water ponds, and in either, what else do they call it? Tanks underground, where you could have a truck come and deliver lots of water. That was another option. Again, these options cost a lot of money. And if you're going to go out and start a community, you need a lot of money. Which is why I was hoping that if I put the message out there to a lot of people on YouTube, that a lot of people would join us, a lot of people potentially with money that could help us make these upgrades we needed. Unfortunately, I'll get to that part, but the volunteers that came were not that great. And of course, we went through the pandemic and the locking of borders, and that was the final straw. As well as the UK, because I'm a UK citizen. They left the EU, which means I'm no longer able to live in Spain as long as I wanted, only 90 days at a time, although I could apply for permanent residency, which I didn't want to do. So all these things started leading up to the end of the off-grid community in Spain. And I'll tell you what I'm doing now with my time, because I haven't given up on the off-grid community, not just yet. I've quit on this one, and I still own the land, but I'm going to try again in another location, which is Mexico. That's where I am now. But I will get to that part at the end of the video. The other major problem is why the off-grid community didn't work, or why it doesn't work when you're with yourself, is because you need someone to watch the animals and the plants when you go away, because if you live off grid in the middle of nowhere, and for example, you want to go on vacation, you want to go and visit your family, you want to do anything normal people do every once in a while, you can't, because your plants are going to die and your animals are going to die. Of course, you could ask your neighbors, but our neighbors weren't that great. And they weren't really willing to help us because everyone's kind of, at this point in life, in the world, I don't know, maybe in Spain, they were just all for themselves. No one wanted to come together to help a common goal. They all just wanted to develop their own land, sell that land, and make lots of money. I don't know. But that wasn't my plan. My plan was to build something that the world could replicate. We could build an off-grid community that could be shared. Unfortunately, we didn't get that far, but I am not giving up. I have not quit yet. So that's why we wanted to have at least an off-grid community so that we could actually go away, go snowboarding, go visit family, whatever. But these things fall apart. So anyways, back to the volunteers and why this is probably the biggest problem you're going to have starting an off-grid community is the volunteers that decide to show up. Because the people that decide to show up, they generally have no money, they generally have nothing going on in their lives, which is why they can just show up. So the first girl that showed up, she only wanted to take pictures of herself for her Instagram and whatever. That was the only thing she cared about. She probably worked maybe an hour. This is out of the 8 to 10 people that came. The next guy, he came. He was always eating, always busy, always saying he was going to help, but never got around to it. So now we've had 2 bad experiences, and we're like, okay, maybe one of our friends. So we had one of our friends, another girl, come, and she came with her baby, and she couldn't really help that much because same sort of thing. She wanted to be part of it, but wasn't able to do much. So I'm not going to give her too much stick because she did have a baby, but she came and she couldn't really help. Anyways, then we had a family of about 4 or 5 people. And when they came, I got really excited. I was even updating on YouTube. Yeah, our off-grid community is now like 8 people. Woohoo! And as it turned out, they weren't helpful at all. There was always drama. They were always too busy. And what I even did was, because there was always drama and they were always too busy, and they stayed for quite a while, I put up a big community sign saying like community to-do list. These are the things that we need to do, need to build, need to buy, need to plant. And not one single thing on that list could they handle. Did they even attempt to try? So now we're in 3, 4, we've had 8 people show up and leave, and they've done nothing but give us stress and cause us more money, more grief. And then I had one volunteer, my friend Paul. He actually came. Thank you very much, Paul. He came for about a week and did loads and loads of helped me with everything and anything I wanted. He was the best volunteer that we've had out of the 10 or so people. He was my friend, but thanks again, Paul. You were amazing. The only guy that showed up that actually helped. And then after him, we actually had 2 older people show up, and they claimed to have some money, and they claimed that they were going to help, and they brought their own trailer and things like that. But when they got to the community, they talked a lot like they were going to help. They knew everything. They knew how to do stuff, but they just couldn't do anything. They just never got around to it because it was too hot, or they got a bug bite, or their leg was sore, or just, I mean, they weren't that old, but they were old enough where they couldn't do anything, clearly. So they stayed for a couple months and were always leaving and coming back. They just basically used it as a base, and they weren't there to help. So after it was all said and done, after 8 to 11 some odd people, we started thinking maybe we should call it quits. Maybe this is the wrong idea. Maybe people are too selfish. Maybe they don't want to work. They just want to be part of the solution, part of the after fact. They want the community to be built, but they don't want to sit there and try to help it be built. They just want to enjoy it once it's done. So this is our major problem. And obviously then I dealt with a breakup, and of course the pandemic of locking the borders and everything. And that was it, guys. That was it. I'm closing the border. I'm closing my borders to the off-grid community. I shut it down. And I decided that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to do it in another place. Somewhere that's not so dry, somewhere that's not so hot, somewhere that's not so isolated, so that we do have options to have a community again, and children able to go to school, have friends, things like that. So somewhere in the middle of all these problems is the solution. And that's why I'm here in Mexico. There's cheap land, there's beautiful beaches, wonderful mountains and rivers, and I think it's about time that we try again. So that's my plan, and that's why I closed my off-grid community, and that's what I'm doing with myself now. Just in case you've been following my channel and you don't exactly know what's been going on and you want to know what's happening, that's what's happening. I appreciate you watching this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends, let them know if they're trying to start an off-grid community, these issues need to be addressed. They need to be thought of, and you need to find a way to somehow either filter the people to determine which ones are going to help and which ones aren't going to help, or you're just going to have to go through it the hard way like I did. But this is what you could expect, and maybe there's another way I could have done it. I don't know. If you have any suggestions, things that I could have done or maybe I did wrong, leave them in the comments, let me know, because I'm not done with the off-grid community. I'm going to start again, and hopefully with your help, maybe I can get more volunteers somehow on the internet here that are actually going to come and actually going to help and actually want to be part of something and not just enjoy it when it's done. So that's a little update for you guys that have been following and you want to know why I no longer live off-grid or why I closed my off-grid community. And that is why. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Check out some of my other videos. Do me a favor and give them comments, give them thumbs up, because with the money raised from YouTube, it's going into the off-grid community. So the more you guys interact with this stuff, the more you help me out, the faster we can buy some more land and get started again and learn from our mistakes and try to upgrade. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.